My name is Bush Nielsen. This is the fourth video in a series that I'm doing today that describe issues about the closing protection letter and the title agent's need to be on the list of approved closers for lenders. In this video, what I want to discuss is the different types of laws that have been adopted in various states that mandate the use of closing protection letters and the issuance of those letters to not just lenders, but borrowers, sellers, and buyers of real estate. Recently, a number of states have adopted this kind of law, and I'm going to read from a list that I've made. These are the states that I know about: Alabama, Arkansas, the District of Columbia, Delaware, Georgia, Idaho, Illinois, Louisiana, Missouri, Mississippi, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Tennessee, Utah, and Virginia. I think the easiest way to approach these laws is to study the Illinois law, which has been the most copied law of this type. In Illinois, the Insurance Department Deputy Commissioner wrote the law and imposed it on the industry. He didn't take any input from the industry before the law was adopted. Here was the special thing about the Illinois regulator. That man had spent decades in the title insurance business. He understood what closing protection letters were. He had also witnessed some very high-profile thefts of escrow money in the Chicago area, one of which made the pages of the Chicago Tribune regularly because the amount stolen was estimated to be between $75 million and $90 million. So the Illinois regulator was very aware that hundreds of people in the state of Illinois had not been compensated for the money they lost in these high-profile thefts of escrow money. The Illinois law requires a title insurer to issue a closing protection letter in every transaction. Also, it requires that a letter be issued to all the parties in the transaction. So that means on a purchase, a letter must be issued to the buyer, the seller, and the lender, if there is one. On a refinance loan, letters must be issued to the lender and to the refinancing borrower. The Illinois law also says that the title insurer must charge for the letters, and the law even states the amount of the charge. The title insurer does not have authority to issue closing protection letters to people who are not the insureds of that company, unless there is a law specifically adopted to say that, because a letter is not insurance, it's not title insurance, no charge is made for it, and it's beyond the scope of what the title insurer is authorized to do as an insurance company. So only if a law is adopted may a title insurer issue a letter that is for the benefit of someone who is not one of its insureds. One reason for this is that almost every state has what is known as a monoline law, and that is a law that says that a title insurance company cannot issue any kind of insurance other than title. These monoline laws were adopted after the Great Depression, when a number of companies which had issued both mortgage insurance and title insurance failed, mostly because of the losses they suffered on the mortgage insurance policies that they had issued. Michigan, for example, has a monoline law. Now, most of the laws that have been adopted say that the title insurer must issue the closing protection letters. This is better for the title agent than an optional state. Let me give you an example. In Ohio, CPL coverage is optional. The buyer and the seller have to sign an affidavit or an opt-out form, rather an opt-in form, I suppose, at the time of closing. And the form is promulgated by the state. This means that the person conducting the closing has to explain the form to the person and explain what the insurance is for, which is essentially the possible theft of that person's own money by the person who is conducting the closing, and then invite the person to either get insurance against that risk or not get insurance. This is a very awkward situation for the closer in Ohio to explain the coverage adequately in order for the person to make the decision about whether or not to get that insurance coverage. In mandatory CPL statutes, however, the closer does not have to explain the opt-in or the opt-out. The closer merely explains that there is a charge showing up on the HUD-1 form, soon to be the TRID disclosure form, and explains generally what the nature of that coverage is. Does not have to explain it in such depth so that the person can make a decision about opting in or out of that coverage. I'm also often asked if a law couldn't be written so that the title agent would receive some of the money that is paid for closing protection letters. First, let me tell you that none of the laws that have been adopted in all these states have ever said that a title agent may share in the fee that is charged for a closing protection letter. Some of the laws specifically say that a title agent may not, that a title insurer may not share that fee with anyone else. The idea that title agents normally float to me is that there's labor involved by the title agent in collecting the money for the fee and then delivering that money to the title insurer. Yes, there is work involved in that. But a closing protection letter is similar to an employee theft surety bond. So think of it this way. A title agent pays for an employee theft bond. It would be ridiculous for a title agent to expect to receive part of the premium that it is paying for that bond back from the company that is issuing the bond to the title agent. The beautiful thing about a closing protection letter to the title agent, by comparing it to a theft bond, is that the title agent doesn't have to pay for this coverage. The customer pays for the coverage. To go further and suggest that the title agent can receive some of the money paid by the customer to protect him or herself against the acts of the closer title agent pushes it beyond the pale as far as the regulators and the title insurers are concerned. So, the second reason that a title agent would never be allowed to share this closing protection money is that a regulator would say that is contrary to the whole idea of regulations. The third reason why this would never fly is that everyone, including, for example, the real estate agents, would say that whatever the portion of the money is that the title agent shares that is being collected from the customer must be excess to the cost of actually covering the risk of the agent theft. And so those groups would say that the cost should be reduced by the amount that the agent would collect. So it would be a net zero anyway, if the agent wanted to push that kind of an additional fee to be added. So between the regulators, the title insurers, and the other customer groups involved in the passage of this kind of a law, all of them would say that the agent cannot share in that fee. All right, I've given you a short description of what these closing protection letter laws do and say. Please stay on for the other videos that I've prepared that discuss other questions about the closing protection letter. Thank you.